This is the Leo Clamaco Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Leo Clamaco Podcast. I'm your host, Leo. Today's guest is a business mindset coach, host of the Attractive Mindset Podcast, kicking ass, by the way, helping small brands monetize small audiences. Rich. What's up, Rich?
What's up, man? Glad to be here. Thank you.
I am so happy you're here, man. I'm happy we finally connected and was able to get this going.
Absolutely.
Rich, for those who don't know you, let's start out a little bit about you and your background and your upcoming.
Yeah, so for everybody that doesn't know me, my full name is Darryen Richardson, but was in the military, was in the Marine Corps. So, of course, they shortened Richardson to Rich. And
Thank
so
you
I've
for your
always gone
service.
by Rich. Thank you.
How'd you like the military?
It was bittersweet.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go. I didn't go because I wanted to go. I went because I was homeless. And so I got kicked out at 16 in New York. And if you know anything about New York winters, pretty rough.
It's very
And
rough.
so
I'm from Queens, so I know it very well.
I basically just, stayed in what you would call like a non-drug related trap house, where it's just an empty house that had no water, no electricity, no
Wow.
nothing. And I had a couple buddies there with me, and
In
it was
Brooklyn?
rough. Yeah, it was in Long Island, actually.
Long Island.
Yeah, so I left Brooklyn to go back out there and, just stayed with whoever I can, bounced around places, and it was rough. And so my friend who had joined the military was like, yo, man, you're a smart dude. I can get you at least $3,000 if you join the military. And
Right.
at the time, $3,000 was the world
A lot
for
of
me.
money,
So
yeah.
I joined. And
it was a way out.
Yeah.
Something for you to go do.
Yeah.
How's your experience there?
My experience was rough. I was a tank crewman. So it was, I was in 29 Palms, went on deployment, got banged up a little bit, came out. I'm like 90% disabled right now. But, it was a learning experience. The guys that I went there with, the things that
Where'd you go?
went through, we went to Bahrain and Kuwait.
Okay.
And so going there, learning about other cultures, learning about other things, doing Sec 4, security forces, building posts, dealing with ISIS in real time,
Wow.
dealing with all those things is just being able to learn more about not only myself, mentality, the mentality of people around me. People who talk a lot aren't as big as they, seem to be.
For sure.
And the quiet ones are the ones who'll get you, so just learning a little bit more about psychology, diving into the world of how the mind works, especially under pressure.
How would you say that upbringing made you who you are today?
The upbringing was definitely a journey. It's rough because a lot of things in my past, I don't wish on anybody else. But then again, if I didn't go through them, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Right. I know exactly what you mean.
I grew up in the hood. And so before I even got to the military, I got shot, stabbed.
Wow.
I was outside doing crazy shit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so, being able to see that side of the fence versus going to the military versus coming out and then going into entrepreneurship. I never had that connection with my mother. My mother was super religious. She was Seventh-day Adventist, and she would go to church and everything. And I would always challenge those ideals and whatnot. Right. And, she eventually had kids with my stepfather. And that's when she made the decision. She's like, hey, I don't really want to deal with you anymore. And I don't want your sisters to grow up learning from you. Wow. And so she's like, we're going to go to Atlanta. You figure out what you want to do. And so that
you were
was
16
right for me. Yep, 16 at that time.
Wow.
I had just been expelled from high school, and she just didn't know what to do anymore. So, of course, part of that is my fault. But at the same time, what parent just leaves their kid in a whole nother state?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of figure my life out. I got emancipated. I went to Jamaica High School by myself, graduated from there 12th grade, and started looking for some jobs and stuff. Nobody wanted to hire. And so I started sweeping the floors in a barbershop, and I learned from a Jamaican guy named Neil, and he was just a cool dude. And he was like, bro, you don't have to turn to the streets. You don't have to do stuff like that. And
right.
I was hearing him, but at the same time, I didn't really have much choice to do much else. And so I got caught up with the wrong crowd, and I had to put literally food on my table. And so,
right.
We did what we needed to do.
100%. We do what we got to do. Yep. Right. Yeah, man. How would you say, what was the value of that mentor in your life? What was the value of that person that helped you see that saw more in you, that saw that you had more of a potential, that tried to keep you out of that world?
The biggest thing I've learned from my mentors of life is perspective. Uh, every mentor that I've had has always had a different perspective than me, and that helped me see that the world as a whole just lives on different perspectives. I just taught a class the other day at the audience growth tour, and I had a bunch of my mentees in the room, and these are people with successful 6, 7 figure businesses. And I asked them, "Hey, what does success mean to you?" And I asked 5 people in a row. Every single answer was different, and so it just gives a broader concept to the word perspective and
Right.
mindset, because there's not one way to do something, and there's
No.
not one way to be successful at something.
No, there's
And
many
so,
ways.
all my mentors taught me that, there's a lot of ways to do a lot of things. And even if you don't grow up with the perfect home, or if you don't grow up with, help, or if you don't grow up with whatever, or if you're stuck in this environment, you're not really stuck. You have things that you got to deal with in this environment, but there's ways to get out.
So once you left high school, once you left the barbershop, where did life take you?
Life took me back to Long Island, because that's where my parents had moved. I grew up in Brooklyn, and they didn't like the atmosphere that was around there and everything. So they moved to Long Island, which kind of made it worse, because if anybody knows anything about Long Island, like, everybody from the city goes out to Long Island because they're trying to
Yep.
do the same thing. And
Exactly.
so I actually got more involved in bad shit out there. And I
Where in
started
Long
getting caught
Island?
up, Bay Shore.
Bay Shore. I
And
know Bay
so
Shore. Yeah.
once I went out there, I've always been a stand-up guy that moved on principle. My stepfather was also religious, but he had a more rap hip hop side to him. And so he grew me up on like the Fushnikins and
Okay.
Das Effects and all of that stuff. And I had
Wow.
got jumped on an overpass one day, came home nose bloody on Halloween, and I'm like crying and complaining. And he was like, "Hey, well, hold on." He was like, You're alive, right?" And I'm like, "Obviously, yeah." He's like, "They just wanted to check your chin, man." And that whole just experience resonated with me, because he was like, "You live to fight another day. It's just part of the streets." And ever since then, I've always
Wow. What an
moved off of
outlook.
principles.
Yes.
And so anytime somebody challenged me or my friends, I fought in school. And he's like, "Well, I didn't mean for you to start fighting everybody." But at the same time, it taught me how to really just ground myself. And I became a lot more outspoken from that, because before I would kind of reserve myself and
Yeah.
not be as outspoken and whatnot. And so me fighting a lot, she had put me in boxing early on, and I just wasn't disciplined enough to stay in boxing, but I did get runner up for Golden Gloves.
Nice.
And that kid just ran around the ring, and to me, I wanted to dog fight, and
Right.
that also taught me perspective. And so a lot of my mentors in life weren't from like a paid mentorship; they were just perspectives that I didn't understand at the moment. Where boxing isn't just stand there, get hit, see who could stand the longest.
No, it's
At
a
that point,
dance.
it's a dance.
Yeah.
It's an art form.
Mhm.
And so just going through life, I've always tried to look at my shortcomings as, what is this trying to teach me?
To that point, what do you think the military taught you?
I feel like the military taught me how to value another human life. Just as easy as you can take it, is as easy as you can accept it. And there's a lot of things that go on with media in today's life and in today's society, where, again, the media doesn't have to tell the truth.
Right.
And so you might see
They
things
really
about
don't.
things happening overseas where they're not really happening. When I went to Bahrain, is the first time I got to really go to a mosque, go, understand their culture,
Right.
and understand that, these are, I was a kid at the time. And so these are just kids like me. And they have Jordans the same way. They have phones, and I was
Yep.
in a skewed perspective. It sounds crazy, but I'm like, oh, they got camels and it's all dirt and everything, but they have an actual civilization that is
Yeah.
very similar to ours. And I was ignorant until I went over there and experienced it for myself. Now, were there the extremists like ISIS and Al Qaeda and all of them? Absolutely.
For sure.
But that could just be labeled to the same things over here for mass shooters and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you're not going to section out everybody to be an extremist.
Right. You have to understand that there's mainly good people.
Yeah.
It's a handful of people that really just terrorize everybody.
Yep.
But that's a really valuable lesson to learn to value the human life.
Mhm.
And it's important to learn that lesson at a young age. I feel like too many people get into their 30s and 40s and haven't learned that lesson.
Mhm.
And they just keep abusing people
100%.
and you know and taking advantage of them and sucking their energy.
100%. And from people being able to do that, from me going through those experiences, like I've learned the lack of hesitation when it comes to a lot of different facets of life, and if it ever comes to me having a problem with somebody, my hesitation factor to take somebody's life is no longer there. And so it makes me think first, to
Right.
where it's like, hey, you sure you want to take this route?
Yeah.
Because once it goes there, it's up. I have insurance every month. Hey, I'm gonna defend myself in a way that I'm too old to
Do you
be.
carry?
Absolutely. I'm defending myself in a way where, hey, I don't have time for this. I make too much money and I do too much shit. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have time for this.
I've been through too much shit to waste my
Yeah.
time here.
Yeah, so it helps me approach people in a different way, and it helps me understand how bad our community, our local community, our racial community is when it comes to cohesion,
Right.
because people beef over the littlest things, and that teaches me or helps me further understand that people don't value human life as much anymore. And you hear it in a lot of music, you see it in a lot of movies, and this is what people are constantly subjected to. And
Yeah.
from psychology, there's a term that we use, digital deluge, where there's an over allotment of information, over processing of information, and everything is instant gratification. Everything is all this, and this, and it creates a comparative society where everybody's comparing something to somebody. People
Yes.
don't understand cultural nepotism, like we
Mm.
talked about, all those
Yep.
type of things, and that just creates a way bigger issue at the end of the day.
How do you think that can all be changed? How can that stigma, that perception, that cycle, how can that be broken?
Honestly, in our lifetime, in this current world, the way it is, I don't think it'll ever be broken. And it's an unfortunate way to say that, but at the end of the day, you have some people who are more optimistic, you have some people who are pessimistic, and I feel like I'm realistic. And in me being 100% realistic, the way the world is designed is naturally to pit us apart from each other.
Mm.
And no matter which kind of spectrum you look at it, somebody will be rich,
Right.
somebody will be poor, somebody will be hungry, somebody will be homeless, someone will agree with a Democrat, somebody will agree with a Republican,
Right.
unless our entire world somehow magically just changes. It will never change in the way we have society right now.
Do you think that there is a lack of humanity, a lack of love?
I don't think there's a lack of love. I think there's a suppression of love. And by the suppression of love is we don't understand change. We grow up very systematic, and this goes to different spectrums of your mind, going through different brain plasticities, understanding, people don't even understand their brain. They don't know
Right.
parts of their brain and how it works. A serial killer has the same, we all have an amygdala. An amygdala is in control of your emotional states, especially fear. And so a serial killer's amygdala is 18% smaller than the average amygdala. And so they
Wow.
cannot resonate with the same reaction to consequence or fear or anything. And so if they murder somebody, 18%, most murderers that go to jail have been proven through EEGs, fMRIs, all of that stuff, that their amygdala is smaller. And so in their
Wow.
mind, they're not doing wrong.
Right.
And so when you can't
They can't see it.
put logic to
Mm.
something, how can you have that conversation with a human being? Versus now the other side of the spectrum, where people who give back or donate or do things like that, their amygdala is 8% bigger. And so you have both of these people that exist in the world, and just by looking at somebody, you're not going to be able to tell, like, well, this person has a bigger, amygdala or cerebrum or
Right.
whatever, blah, blah. And so understanding how systematically we're divided already. When we go to school, we didn't go to school at the same time or in the same place, but I guarantee you wrote your name on the paper. You wrote the date. You wrote the class, all that stuff. And so
Yeah.
there's systematic things that we learn through history, through our life, that set us up to be a certain way when we're an adult. And it's very hard to undo that if we don't intentionally do that. And as a mass scale, it just won't happen in this kind of society.
Speaking of control and a setup, what did you think about the debate?
I didn't watch the debate because social media is always going to tell you everything
sure.
about the debate. And, you know, honestly, I'm listen, the debate is just a ploy
Mm-hmm.
because we have a lot bigger issue that's going on here where
Oh yeah.
um if it could, I don't even know how to, you know, articulate it because it's just a scenario where you're forced to choose one or the other.
Yes, it's a clown show.
And it's just like, oh man, you know, both have their benefits and both definitely have their cons.
Yeah.
And it's just like you win and lose at the same time for either choice.
Right. I think that it connects well with what you're saying, that like just keep us divided and they rule and they conquer, right? And all this back and forth, blue, red, blue, it's all a form of division, all form of control, you know? Keep us dumb, keep us uneducated, and keep us eating processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a big one.
Absolutely. Processed foods, you know, something that most people don't even know is I own some acres in Virginia, and I haven't really done anything with it yet. It's actually, I should probably do it because it's taking my money.
You probably should.
But I went out there to shoot a documentary for the National Black Farmers Association.
Nice.
John Boyd versus the United States.
Wow.
And he wanted to get reparations for black farmers and get money back. They owed him a crazy amount of money.
I bet.
And so he was the guy who rode a white horse in front of the White House and like, you know, revolted and all that stuff. And we went there maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. No, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago now. And you know, he's just sitting on like 100-something acres of land. And I was like, yo, I would like this. And I actually met the person who makes our agave straws.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the agave straws and everything, and just seeing the process for like the farmland and, you know, really understanding more culture about the farmland.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
city guy. And so going out there, like eating the fresh food, like purely
It's so
farm
different.
raised, I'm like, holy, this is
The color's different.
this is the United States.
Yes.
Like, holy shit. And it's just an experience. And I'm like, you know, I want something like that. I don't know exactly what I would, you know, do with it.
Right.
I don't want to live in Virginia, but
right.
I want to be able to cultivate something like that for myself.
Could do a nice retreat.
Yeah.
You know, build something, a couple cabins in there.
Exactly. Like right now it's just the land, but literally you can do anything on it. And so, you know, even previewing his lands, he has some nice cabins, even how he has like the animal storage farm set up and all that type of stuff. Like it's really nice. And you can live off the grid. It is
For
off
sure,
the grid.
yeah. Wow. Tell me, what's the story behind Attractive Mindset? How did that come to be?
So attractive mindset, you know, we live in a day and age where it's cool to be a coach, where it's cool to be somebody that can sell
Everybody
an online
wants to be a
course.
coach, yes.
And not enough people are willing to do the inner work in order to teach somebody else. And that becomes one of the biggest things where I meet a lot of coaches that are smart.
Right.
You know, they're not dumb guys at all, but I see them battling with themselves a lot. And you can't teach somebody else not to battle with themselves because life and business are intertwined.
Oh, yes.
People try to separate them all the time, and I'm like,
no,
you can't do that, man.
You can't.
They're literally intertwined.
They're one and the same, yeah.
And so if your life is not right, chances are your business is probably not going to be right.
Right, because your mind's not right.
100%. And so I approach business from a mindset perspective to where we really dive into community. And for me, community is the people that make the majority. And so I might make a decent amount of money, but if you go on SSA.gov, and I'm a stickler for cited sources, and so SSA.gov released last year, not even last year because it's not September yet, September 2023, the statistics for the average individual demographics of white, black, Asian, and Hispanic. White made $68,000 on average. Blacks made $41,600. Hispanics made $40,000 and Asians made $78,000. And so that is the average of the entire United States.
Wow.
And so if people want to preach the community or help these people out, how are people's coaching programs costing 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 100,000? These are
Right.
these people's life.
Right.
These are these people's year of income. They have families, they have kids. And so they have to sustain themselves and then try to go for stuff like that. And so I always wanted to make myself accessible to somebody who wanted more, but was willing to get it. And so, I might have a 5 or 6 grand price, but that's feasible, especially when split into payments.
For
And
sure.
I would rather build something where I can help people out. And so I've always taken the tougher route when it comes to business. I don't have any VAs. Everybody that I have is local. That's what building community is to me. Like,
Okay.
can I take people out of their jobs? And so in my production company, we have 54 people. 14 of those people are full-time for my company now.
54 people. Okay.
Yeah, 54 people, 14 of those people are full-time. And so being able to take another person that has kids, has a wife, and I create something that can fully sustain them, fully support them, I can do it way cheaper for some of their stuff.
Right.
I can go get a VA from the Philippines or wherever, but
Yeah.
that's not supporting my community.
No, it's not.
And so being able to have people in a local standpoint to me is how we start to trigger some change, like you talked about. But that's the only way change really happens is if more of us really start to employ the people around us, or else we're always going to go outside and see homeless individuals or
Right.
whatever. Even earlier this year, and that's a whole mini vlog because I stopped vlogging it, but we fell out. But I picked up a homeless guy off the street. And because he simply asked for a chance.
Wow.
Nothing else. I didn't know him, didn't give him any money, didn't give anything else to him but a chance. He said, "Hey, I'm willing to work for whatever you're willing to give me." And I said, "If you're willing to do that, then we can work together." And unfortunately, his mental state was too jarred by then. He had went to prison for like 15 years. He watched his mother kill his father.
Wow.
And so he was still dealing with those kind of scars. And
Yeah.
he never grew up in that kind of home environment, never had people that really cared for him, never had love. And he had lived on the streets for so long that when we even got him a haircut, he didn't even recognize himself. He was like, "What? I look like this?" And being able to see people in your community go through that level of trauma also teaches you perspective.
For
Because
sure.
I go home and he was technically living under the bridge like 2 blocks from me.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so we all exist in the same society, but then we have, and it's not to say that they don't deserve it, but you have reparations and stuff going out to Ukraine. You have a lot of things going other places where
Billions and billions of dollars
yeah,
going to Ukraine, going to Israel, going to Gaza,
yeah,
and they don't give a fuck about Americans.
yeah. And so it's like it's a double-edged sword because people can argue, well, they need it. And it's like, well, we need it too.
Yeah.
And we're so willing to help other people's problems instead of our own problems. And that's why I say systematically we can never change, because
Yeah.
I don't think the people at the top want to fix our problems because they're
No,
not
they
affected
don't.
by our general problems.
It's so crazy to me how quickly they print out billions of dollars for Ukraine, but they can't do it for their own citizens.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Like even if we were compared us to other countries, we paying for healthcare. Something that should be
And that's
free.
our money.
Yeah.
Our tax money.
Yep. Like you're literally in America, and it's become so systematic. I don't think people really understand. Like, we fought, Civil War fought,
Yes.
Boston Tea Party
Brutal.
over tea tax.
Over 3%. Did you know that? It was over 3%
Yeah.
tax?
Yeah.
Insane.
And now we get taxed to even die.
Oh my God.
We can't even die. And we die and owe money.
Yes. Can't even pass money on to your kids. They get taxed on it.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is the current society, and it's sad to see.
It really is. So tell me, how did that experience take you to creating attractive mindset?
And so in creating attractive mindset, I've always believed in the law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, really diving into that world, opening up certain stuff. I've never really stagnantly meditated, but I've meditated through just being still.
Okay.
And so
That's meditating.
yeah. And so in learning that essence of meditation, I started diving into worlds of like remote viewing and astral projection and all of that stuff. And
That's
I've
cool.
done it a few times, and it's definitely an experience. To somebody who's not of that world, of that essence, it's a lot to explain. And even diving into further things like Antarctica and the Grand Canyon and all what people would call conspiracy
And
kind
the
of stuff.
pyramids
Like,
and
yeah, I'm that kind of guy.
Anunnakis.
Yes,
Love that shit too.
And so, being able to just open my mind to other possibilities of existence and thrivingness of culture, you start to look at the world in a different sense. And what we need the most right now is an attractive mindset, and so I usually tell everybody, I'm the most attractive man in America. And I say that from my mind, because if you have an attractive mindset, literally the law of attraction is what you put out is what you get back.
For sure.
And so I want everybody that comes around me to have that same type of gravitation. And then, in the same breath, I'll kill somebody. And so I need people to also understand the spectrum of that is just because I think this way doesn't mean that, I'm soft in any way, or I won't react to something in any type of way, because I still have a mission to fulfill for myself and my family and my friends. And I want to make sure that I'm here to fulfill that mission. If it's my time to go, I have no fault.
Right.
But if it's somebody that challenges me to make my time cut short, that would never happen. And so, being able to have the duality, which is why I have my duality of money bag rich and mastermind rich. When mastermind rich is speaking, mastermind rich might do the podcast and I'll have the brain shirts and all that type of stuff. But money bag rich is more of I always have my glasses on, my shades. I'm usually wearing my bucket hats. I usually put on my chains and stuff like that. And I'll be a lot more antisocial. Mastermind rich will be more social. And me having that duality lets me balance myself, because, even creating the personas between my regular name, Darryen, and what people call me, Rich is the extrovert, and Darryen allows me to be me. Most people don't call me Darryen except my immediate friends and family. And Darryen likes anime. Darryen likes to chill. Darryen wants to go off grid. Darryen wants to just live and just vibe on his own.
Yep.
But Rich understands that I have to go build something. Rich is the one who went to the military. Rich is the one who came out from the military and understood leadership a lot more, understood, doing what I got to do to make sure that we get to where we're trying to go. And so being able to go outside, be that person, come home and be myself gives me the peace that I need to take a break.
I love that. I love that a lot. And I've heard that before, that a lot of influencers have dual personas, that it's a way to, detach from your regular life, and this is your persona life, and you're able to go back and forth and leave it there, right? Not drag it to your other persona with you.
100%. And I recommend that for everybody, because it's the same concept of what you do when you go into an acting role.
Right.
And so that this is a stage that I'm setting. And I tell people all the time, hey, how I am on social media is not how I am at home. And that doesn't mean that I'm a different person, but I am allowed to show a different side of myself for social media. I show you what I would like you to see versus what, might actually be. That doesn't mean that stuff from social media doesn't happen at home.
I mean, if you want to call that a different person, so be it. Yeah. But it is what it is.
It's the same version, but it's just a different side of me, and I get to turn it on and off. When you have a character that plays something like The Walking Dead or a series that has multiple seasons, they have to get in character. And there's things called method acting, which is what killed Heath Ledger. The Joker, one of the best Jokers of all time.
Yeah.
He got into character. He had to really develop that persona, really develop that mindset, and understand like, hey, this is the character that I need to become. And so it's the same thing for attractive mindset, for Mastermind Rich. Hey, this is who I need to be to present to the world, my students, whoever is willing to listen. Like, this is the information that's out there, and this is how we combine it to make a community.
I used to work at a place called B&H in New York, and one day Heath Ledger walks in full Joker persona.
Wow.
He was shooting the movie. The movie was still being shot, and he walked into B&H with regular clothing, but some makeup on, but in full Joker persona. It was not Heath Ledger. It was the Joker.
Wow.
And I interacted with him. I sold him a couple of cameras. And it was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had.
Damn.
Because it was literally the Joker.
Damn.
Yeah. He was like living that character outside of shooting.
Yeah.
So to your point.
That's how you have to be. You have to be all into something. And, you know, most of my students, my mentees, you know, when I come to them, one of the first questions I ask them is, what are you obsessed with? And they're like, I'm not obsessed with anything. And I'm like, that's your problem. You're not obsessed with anything. If we want to get to a certain level of mastery with anything,
I agree.
You have to have a level of obsession with it.
I agree.
People don't become part of the NBA or NFL or, you know, politicians or presidents of the United States if they don't have a level of obsession with the route that they're going. And that can go anywhere. That can go, if you want to be off the grid, then be obsessed with being off the grid.
Right.
You know, if you want to build a community, be obsessed with building community. If you want to make a lot of money, be obsessed with making a lot of money. It can go wherever you want it to go, but you have to have a certain level of obsession. You can't just sometimes want it. You can't just maybe want it.
It's an all-day thing.
Work out. Yeah.
Right. Rich, what do you think sets you apart? What do you think allowed you to overcome and escape your upbringing?
Being able to see past the matrix. That's the cleanest answer that I can give. Understanding that there's more than what's presented.
There's more than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm. And being able to see past what they can be whoever you want it to be.
Right. Whoever they is.
Yeah, you know, being able to see past what was put right directly in front of us has helped me to become the person that I am, because it just shows that the world isn't black and white.
No.
The world has red, blue, green, yellow, orange, purple, and then they have hues to those colors as well.
Yes.
So they may not just be a bright purple or a dark purple or a royal purple.
It could be a violet.
It could be whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so being able to understand that it's a spectrum for real has developed me to set me apart from a lot of other people, because I've developed patience.
How important is patience?
Patience is key, because patience goes hand in hand with consistency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the true definition of discipline is being able to consistently, patiently do something.
Yes.
You know, and that's more than just motivation, which is why I'm not really an advocate for motivation. You know, a lot of motivational speakers go out there and say, you can do this. You do this every day. I might tell you quit. Because quitting, sometimes you have to know when to quit.
Yes.
You have to know when something's not working.
I agree 100%.
I can work with somebody for a period of time, and if your mindset is just not changing, hey, you might want to stop this.
Right.
Because this isn't either right for you, or it's not right for you right now with the way you're thinking.
Sometimes things just don't fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being able to pivot, being able to go fulfill yourself in something else, you know, it means a lot. And a lot of parents do that to kids as well, where they'll want to vicariously live through them. And so if they wanted to be a actor or basketball player or whatever in the past, they'll drive that kid to go into sports. And this whole time, the kid's good at it. The kid might, you know, want to do it every now and then, but
it's not his passion.
Real passion.
Speaking of kids and patience, my kids taught me patience. I had to learn it the hard way because I was extremely impatient. And then you get a newborn, and oh boy, do you have to learn patience. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy.
No, absolutely.
And pregnant women, oh my goodness, you got to learn patience.
Yeah, you know, I don't have any kids yet, but you know, I've always thought myself as, you know, it'll be a learning perspective for me as well, because I'm a godfather right now, and it sounds bad to say, but I'm not even interactive with the child like that, because I don't have that kind of connection. I've never had that kind of connection to where I can just gravitate towards children.
Right.
You know, for me, I'm like, yo, I become a part of a child's life when they hit like 9 and up.
Mm.
And so I'm excited for that experience. You know, I have talks with my girl and she's like, whenever we're ready, you never really ready. It just happens.
Right.
And so when it happens, it happens. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to learn that experience.
I think you'll be involved from day one.
Mhm.
Just your energy and your mindset. You're going to see that kid the day it happens to you. You're going to see that baby and you're going to be like, damn, everything just fucking changed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to be like, that is now my responsibility, you know? Because like the concern is like, bro, will he even make it to 9 years old? You got to get there first. You got 9 years. So you'll be there from day one, I guarantee it.
No, absolutely. You know, and I've always thought, and I still think from the process of being able to build something that lives beyond me. And so, you know, with everything that I do now, I took a big lesson at the end of last year alone. Like last year, I had like maybe 5 or 6 exotics. I had
Wow.
I had the AMG Benz, I had the Lambo Urus, I had the Tesla with the butterfly doors, I had all that shit.
You're doing Turo?
Wow, no, not
No.
even. Yeah, I had a partner.
Okay.
And that's where it went bad because my partner wasn't in the same space that I'm in. And I moved off of him having upfront money. And he had a job. And there's nothing wrong with a job, but
No.
he quit his job because he thought he could do what I've been doing for 10 years.
Without having any capital.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or little capital.
Right.
And so now you have to do this. You're trying to start a business. And I'm like, hey, just because you quit and you have some knowledge, your business is not going to take off overnight. And that's eventually what started happening. And so maybe about a year into it, he couldn't make his half of the payments for the cars.
Wow.
And he's like, hey, man, I need you to make. And so you're asking me to drop another like 10, 15 grand a month for you. And after like the first month, 2 months of doing that, I said, oh,
that's too much.
gotta cut it. And I had to take my L's because, you know, once you get those cars, that face value automatically is gone. And so we got rid of them. And in that alone was my lesson, because at the end of last year, I made a lot of money because people saw me with these cars.
So what was your intention with the cars?
My intention with the cars was to make a more inclusive opportunity. I created a quote that was like, success has no dress code. And I wanted to show, you know, community-wise people, everyday people, because I like to consider myself a man of the people. I go on social media and I don't have the following or the crazy following that people would like me to have. They're like, man, I hear you talk. Some of my mentees like, yo, your lessons, I don't know how you're not bigger and this and that. And I tell them, this is what reality is. At the end of the day, I don't have 1,000 people in my phone that I can call and all appear in one room. You know what I'm saying? And so for me to have 3,000 followers on social media, that's a lot of people. Yeah. It's been social media that has transcended us into the mindset of we need to have 10K, 50K, 100K, 1 million followers to reach a certain audience or make a certain amount of money.
Right.
And so, you know, I ended up posting on it. Like last month, I posted myself and my numbers. I'm like, bro, I need you guys to understand I have 3,000 followers on here and I pay multiple 6 figures. And I went through the numbers. I went down the list. I was like, do you guys see this? This is multiple 6 figures to my employees and contractors. This is amazing. I don't have 10K followers. I don't have 50K followers. I don't have a massive audience. I said, but that doesn't mean money's not circulating through my community. I said, that's my biggest goal at the end of the day. And that's the biggest thing that I want to show people. And from that standpoint, he was the one who was into cars more. I wasn't into cars like that.
Got it.
But with my reach, because I reach an authentic audience. And so the last audience growth tour event, you know, shout out to Brendan, you know, we had the audience tour. I think that entire room was me except for one person.
Wow.
And so these are people that have 50K followers, 10K followers, 100K followers, because I shared the stage with maybe
it just like 5 shows you that
people.
Don't mean shit.
100%. And so me being able to fill these rooms and do these things, not one time, but multiple times and have reach, I wanted to show people more of an essence of, hey, once you get that conversation, because I did understand that people want to see fancy things.
Right.
And I'm not a guy that's big on jewelry. I had one Rolex in my life, and the moment I regretted buying it was when, and it's gonna sound fucked up, was when a homeless person said, "Hey man, nice watch."
Mm,
I just spent all this money to buy this watch to have somebody who can't get this watch tell me nice watch. That's it. Because everybody else that I went around with money didn't give a shit about it. They didn't.
right. They all had one.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It was
Right.
it just blended in, and so me getting an Invicta versus getting a Rolex didn't matter to me at that point. The chains, the extra stuff didn't matter to me at that point. What mattered to me was, can I stop working in my business if I needed to,
Right.
without my business going down? And so I started to build a system that didn't involve me. And that's where I started to get even bigger with community-based type things. And so
So let's go into that.
yeah.
I'm really curious to know what roles are you staffing for? Who are these 54 people that run your company? What are those roles? What are you hiring for?
So I'm like hiring and not hiring at the same time, because when I onboard people, I let them understand that it's still their company. They're still doing their thing. I'm more of a professional middleman. If I look
Got it.
at any other big business model, Amazon, Microsoft, Walmart, whatever, there are people that are put in certain billets. There are people that are doing certain things, and it's a time compound. And so the first thing I wanted to attack was, how do I multiply my time? As a human being on this planet, I
Okay.
only have 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And so if I get one other person on my team, I now have 48, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so looking at the metrics of some of the biggest companies, they just have a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I said, how can I create something in my field where I can just get a lot of people? And so I let go of my personal connection to production. And I said, hey, I might have been the one that got us into Denny's, Hard Rock Stadium, Orange Blossom Classic. I got us into we got a voiceover from Morgan Freeman. We got a lot of different stuff. We did documentaries, 100 Black Men of America, 100 Black Kids of America.
That's amazing.
South by Southwest, all that stuff. And I said, if I'm not here, can we still do these things? And so I started getting other people for skills, but that quickly turned, because when you hire people for just skills, they have their own route that they want to take. So instead,
Right.
I started hiring for personality, and I've created something called ROV Academy. And in ROV Academy, we taught them how to, average people how to use a camera from scratch and do whatever, and then send them out in the field to do what we did, because we already knew what they knew because we taught them.
Wow.
And so we had people like Spike Ali come up in the game. We had Will Adrian, Chris Lachey, we had the Jake Cinematic.co, all of these people, and they're doing stuff with Grails, they're doing stuff with Ross, they're doing stuff with Tory Lanez. We shot his music video before he went in. We're doing a lot of different stuff that no longer requires me, and it only required me to teach. And that's how I started to develop more of the attractive mindset brand as well, because I started to fall more in love with teaching the process instead of doing the process myself. I made way more money
Smart.
when I went to go shoot them physically, because now I'm keeping 100% of the profits. It's just operating the camera. You know what I'm saying? Like
But you
get
only
all
have
that
so much
stuff.
time in the day to shoot
Exactly.
those videos, right? So you're limiting
Exactly.
yourself to how much money you can make.
Exactly. And so I took kind of method from I don't even remember exactly the movie, but it was the one with Frank Lucas in it. Um
I know what you're talking about.
the Godfather of Harlem or something, I don't know. Or
It's
American Gangster.
American Gangster.
Yeah. And so,
With Denzel.
yeah. And so when he was selling his crack and stuff,
Was it Blue Dream?
yeah, he cut the price
Yeah.
to beat the competitor. And so I did that twofold. I said, hey, instead of me reaching for the massively big clients all the time, I'm going to cut my section or my company up into 3 sections. So I have an A, B, and C tier of contractors. My A tier, those are the ones who go do the Hard Rock, the Rolling Loud, the South by Southwest, all of them. They barely get booked because those events only happen but so often.
Right.
But my B tier, more so the people that want a little higher pace type stuff, but my C tier is where I make all my money. And my C tier doesn't mean that these people are C tier. This just means that they're accessible to everybody.
Got it.
And so the rates that happen for these people are the rates that they choose, but they're very affordable. And I service the everyday person. And where people, you know, sleep on getting money from the everyday person is there's more everyday people than there are rich or wealthy people.
For sure.
And so now I'd managed to multiply myself by 54.
Wow.
And all I said to them is, hey, I'll find the person for you. We set it up. I set all the paperwork up. We already have the name. I already did the marketing. I already have the SEO. I already have the office. I have most of the cameras. We have the Reds, the Black Magics, the Sonys, all that stuff. Go do the job. And I want to take 18%. And so even the percentage that I took was small so that that person can see, hey, you're getting 82% to go shoot. And so now I brought somewhat of stability to an industry that didn't really have stability.
Genius.
And so in me
Good for you.
doing that, I was able to get people that wanted to actively come into the door, and they understand that, hey, I'm not obligated to give you anything, but if I have something that fits whatever category you want, you know, we go from there. And so trial and error over time just
You
helped me
built the
form different
network.
categories.
You built the community.
Yeah. And that's
for
been my
you.
goal, because unless all of them stop now, and these are recurring clients that we get, these are people that give referrals, all of that stuff, it all goes through the company. And so I don't need to be there at all. I'm not.
Right.
The last time I picked up a camera was like 3-4 years ago.
Wow.
And so being able to just be completely hands off, you know, I make money when I sleep. You know, we just finished doing my podcast. I made money while we were sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Making money
being
right
able
now.
yeah. So being able to, you know, have people doing stuff in other places, still doing what they love,
Yes.
not imposing on them,
Right.
but also, you know, being part of that process.
Yeah, because you're
how I
helping them
found it.
get a customer, and they're giving you a little a kickback for it.
Yep.
That's great. How did this start? Who was your first client? How did you realize that there was something in this production space?
My first client was, I don't even remember. My first client was like some friends out here. It started from me being on a film set, Dre Films. He used to be the head videographer for Rick Ross. And I went to a video shoot set because when I was in college, I was going for a double major because part of me wanted to do college, part of me didn't want to do college. And so I was using the GI Bill, military paid for it. I didn't care either way.
Right.
You know, and so I went for an arts degree and I went for the science degree for psychology.
Got it.
And so in the arts degree, they had us doing like acting classes, the videography classes, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I went on an acting gig because they would have like these boards where you can go get little acting gigs from. And
Okay.
it was like a little 250, 300 for a few hours of whatever. And so we were doing a scene where I was running around on the basketball court, and we had to keep redoing the scene because they had to get a specific shot and all of this stuff. And the camera crew was like maybe 4 or 5 people, and they look super chill. And I'm out here sweating my ass off in this Florida heat. I'm like, yo, all of this for 250 is crazy. And so I started looking at their cameras, asking them about it and whatnot. And he's like, oh yeah, this is a small job. We're only getting paid like 30,000, 40,000 from this. I said, what?
What year was this?
This was 2018.
Okay.
And immediately I said, hell no, I'm on the wrong side of the camera. I said, I'm on the wrong side of the camera. And so when I went back to class, the guy who's still with my company now, he's my COO, Dan Nelson. You know, he was in a precarious situation.
You met him in class.
Yeah, I met him in
That's
class.
awesome. What a story.
And he was like, yo, I got a camera, you know, because we were in class. And he was like, oh, we'll rent you a camera if you don't have one. And he said he had one. And, you know, like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, yo, man, we can shoot these videos. We can do this and that. And he's kind of looking at me like, have you ever shot videos before? I said, absolutely not. I said, but it's okay because we can figure it out. I said, it doesn't seem that hard.
Can't be that hard, right?
Can't be that hard, right? And so we went to go figure it out and whatnot. We used his camera, and eventually, you know, we just went to friends because I grew up in the world of network marketing.
Yep.
And so that shit taught me all the no's, all the whatever. You know, I did the Amway, I did the ACM.
So did I. I did the Amway. I did that shit too.
Man, and so, you know, being able to go from that mindset, I was like, man, this is something tangible that I can actually sell.
Wait, did you go to Amway in Hofstra? Was that the meeting center?
I
in
might
Long
have.
Island, in Hofstra?
I might have.
Yeah.
I knew James Woods. I knew Ralph. I knew all of them.
I knew
James Woods was the guy that got me
this
in there.
ex-baseball player, white guy. Forgot his name.
My upline was Mike. He was like a emerald or something. Yeah.
Sorry, that just took me somewhere else.
No,
Go
it's all
continue.
good. But yeah. So he had this camera. We utilized his camera. I tapped his friend list, my friend list at the time, and I said, "Yo, we're just doing promo shoots, whatever, $70, $100, whatever," and people would go for it.
Nice.
And eventually, we did enough to where I bought a camera.
Okay.
And then so now we had 2 cameras, and then those 2 cameras turned into 4 cameras. And then those 4 cameras turned into like 6 or 7 cameras.
How did you keep getting work? What did you do?
I started diving into world of marketing because I said I don't go out enough, and I was still pretty brand new to Florida at that time. I had moved to Florida in 2016, and outside of school, I hadn't met anybody outside or anything like that. And so this was 2018 timeframe. I said I have to find a way how to reach more people without reaching more people myself. And so I got into the world of SEO. And SEO is heavily slept on in a world where everybody wants to focus on ads. They want to focus on CTRs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
SEO is more organic traffic, because if I set up a stationary place, I can build something that people come to me instead of me trying to go to people. And so that's when I started learning more about just the optimization of that, the IMDb's, the backlinks, all that type of stuff. And we started dumping money into SEO instead of ads. And then before you know it, because if you look at the Google search, you type anything on Google, it'll tell you how much people are looking for this topic. And so I would type in like videography in Hollywood, Florida, videography or photography in Hollywood, Florida, or this and that. And so the key to SEO is conquering your area first. When you conquer your area first, you start to take over naturally the surrounding areas. And so if anybody looks for our area in Hollywood, Florida, they're going to find us in Hollandale. They're going to find us in Aventura,
Pembroke,
all of that stuff. And
Fort Lauderdale.
So there were millions of researches for this stuff a month. And here I am on Instagram posting a little reel, probably put an ad on it to boost it or make it go somewhere else. And I'm like, that's not working. And so being able to have people, corporations, corporate businesses reach out to us from online and have them come to us, I said, okay, cool, I can do this. And it started getting to the point where I couldn't handle as much jobs by myself. And so I said, I have to teach somebody else. And so a girl that I was dating at the time, she was like my first test subject with like 2 or 3 other people. Some guy had hired us to shoot his swimwear brand. And then he got into an argument with his girl, and he wanted to quit his 9-to-5. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to start ROV Academy. I said, hey, I'll teach you how to use the camera. This is how much I made last month doing this type of stuff. You could potentially make this. I said, would an additional $3,000 to $5,000 a month be good for you? He was like, absolutely. And so I just started teaching all of them.
That was straight network marketing right there.
Yeah. My girl quit her job.
Network marketing.
He quit his job. Somebody else quit their job. And that's when I was like, oh shit, I got people quitting their jobs for me. Like, I got to take it more serious. And
I got a spark here. Something's lighting here.
I started diving into the world of marketing even more because knowing the camera is one thing. People are going to develop their own ways, their own creativity, their own path. But understanding how to market these people is what sets us apart. And so that's where I really started going into marketing, advertising, understanding the mindset behind that, what people like, what people don't like, emotional buying, connecting to people's heartstrings, gut strings, all of that type of stuff.
And your background in psychology is so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is, because it's all psychology.
100%. And so we just started hitting these people, and I started choosing specific events. I didn't go to every event. I started getting to events where I can have access to who's in charge. And even if I had to pay my way into certain rooms, I would get into the room and be like, hey, this is what we can provide, or just bring somebody with me and we would do it. And so, just like you did internships, I would kind of do internships for my own company, because I would go to a lot of these places for free. Me being the marketer and the shooter at the time, I would just go shoot myself. And then I would say, hey, I have an entire team that's willing to do stuff like this. And I would give them a final product for free. Some people did it, some people didn't do it. But I physically made that connection and gave something tangible back to them.
Smart.
And then whenever they said, yo, yeah, we'd love to have you here, here, here. And it would really especially hit on holidays. When you have people where, and this is where I tell somebody, this is how you know if you have a company or if you just have a self-employment business, where 15 people hit us up in the same day for all the stuff around the same time. And I was able to send somebody to each one of these events because that's the reality of life.
You had the manpower, you had the staff.
Most people are doing different things at different times.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to grow this method. And that's how we grew it.
That's incredible. Good for you.
Thank you.
Wow. Would you say that you're living your dream life? Or is there anything else that you need to accomplish to make yourself feel that way?
My dream life, I would say I'm living my reality. I don't think I have a dream life. I've never, maybe when I was younger, I might have thought of some perspective of a dream life, but now at this age, I'm living my reality, and my reality is, can I wake up and help the person next to me? And can I do it with a good conscience? And can I do it while supporting myself and my family? And all three of those are checked off. And so if I were to never market again, deactivate my Instagram, whatever, I would still be able to pay all my bills and just play video games or whatever all day, And so if people wanted to count that as the end of the mission, I guess, yeah,
right.
I'm fulfilling my reality. But where I'm starting to do more work now, where I'm going back into a sort of struggle mode, is I'm trying to set up my generations to come. And so that's forcing me to move in a way where I'm spending more money than I need to, figuring stuff out. I'm losing money, all of that stuff, because it's part of the process.
100%.
If I just wanted to live for me, I could do that right now.
Right.
But I'm trying to live for not only my kids, but my kids' kids. So
what a powerful, powerful answer. I live in my reality. I think a lot of people struggle with living in their reality and in their truth.
Yeah.
And I could tell that you don't have any of those barriers.
No. And that's why when I have a conversation with some people, I come off as aggressive to some people, because we live in a sensitive world where people want things sugar-coated, or they want things given to them, or they want things, and I give people a realistic answer. And sometimes, most often, most people don't like that answer.
No,
that
they want the fluff. They want the bull. You cut 100%. Right through it. Yeah,
because I have no need to fluff anybody. I
agree.
I have no need to. It's
just
sell
a waste
anybody.
of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Me living in my constant truth, like I sleep like a baby, literally.
If you could go back in time and tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
I wouldn't tell my younger self anything. Because if I, knowing how my mind worked now and worked then, I would influence and change my decision making 100%. And I wouldn't be the person that I am now.
Your path would have been skewed, right?
100%. I might not be able to live in my reality now if I prepared for my reality then. Being able to face the unknown then and then just happen to come here was the best route that I could take.
Man, you got some powerful answers today.
Thank you.
Was not expecting that. I like it. Rich, what's next for you?
What's next is, again, I don't really have a next. I just have what's going on now. I like to live things in the present. I do think futuristically about some stuff, but it's all part of the same missions. Everything's connected. And so with everything being connected, it's just help more people. That's only, the number only grows. That's what is always next for me, is how do I reach more people? How do I help more people by staying authentically myself? And so, even with my course that I'm putting out mid-July, Big Gain, Small Crowds, how to monetize, an audience when you barely have one, is dedicated to the people that think they can't. Because there's people out here with 50 followers I know that are making money. There's people out here like myself with a couple thousand followers that are making money. And I want people to disconnect from what is societal norms. And that's always my what's next, is how can I speak to somebody, educate them, and not be killed for it? because we live in a society where if you're too intellectual or if you break people out of the systematic mindset,
Right.
they're gonna come for you.
They reject you. Yeah.
In 100 different ways, whether breaking down your brand or doing this stuff. And so when people tell me all the time that I can be way bigger than I am now, I understand that I can be. I understand the marketing to get there. I have a company that's there. My company's way bigger than me, and people don't see my face on my company page.
But is
don't
that
see
the
anything.
best way for you to spend your time?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's really the question.
Exactly.
And if it is, yes, do it. But if it's not, then so be it.
100%. And so I like to stay true to my coaching. I don't have a crazy amount of mentees. I've had people that have, brought money to me and can afford it. And I've told them no, just because our personalities don't mesh.
Right.
You're not ready for a coaching
Not the right
session with
fit.
me. You're not ready to discover more of yourself.
And grow and evolve.
Exactly. And so I want people that, may not be the most well off. Even right now, some of my mentees owe me money. And I tell them like, hey, figure out your situation and we'll start it back later when you got it.
Right.
But those are the people that need help the most.
Right.
And those are the people that most people avoid. Like, oh, I want to avoid the broke people. I want to avoid this and that. How do we change broke people to not broke people?
Give them a new mindset.
You got to give them a new mindset.
No.
And you have to be willing to work with them. And so it is a headache at times because I do get money from that. And, I like to separate my business. ROV does fine on its own, but attractive mindset is very new. And with attractive mindset being new, shit costs money, and being able to have the money come from the business itself to sustain itself has been,
it's a blessing.
It has been a challenge in itself for attractive mindset to be like, okay, cool. We're going to pivot the podcast here because from podcasting, everybody thinks, oh, it's just sitting in front of the camera and talking. But no, some people may get into courses, affiliate links, coaching, VIP packages, seats, all type of different
There's so many
methods.
avenues to go.
I have sponsors, I have a lot of different things that make the brand what it is, and it all plays a role.
Rich, where can people find you? Where can they find your course? Where can they find you on IG? What's your website? Yeah,
so if you want to tap in with me, if you want to learn more about me, you can find me on all platforms at Real Money Bag Rich. And if you want to tap into the course, we do have a pre-order sale going on right now. It should be dropping mid-July timeframe, and it's called Big Gains, Small Crowds, How to Monetize Your Audience When You Barely Have One. You can find that at attractivemindset.com for more information. If you want to tap in, if you want to be a guest on a podcast, anything, just hit me up on DMs.
Guys, if you didn't get value from today's podcast, you weren't listening. Please make sure to go hit up Rich. Go check him out. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Subscribe to his IG. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and my IG. Hit that like button. And now we're going to enter the part of the podcast for the Patreon members, for the community members. So if you're not a member, please subscribe. If you are, we'll see you on the inside. See you guys later. Welcome to the members only portion of our podcast for our Patreons. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a members. We're going to do our 10 rapid fire questions and our one nugget question with Rich. So here we go. Rich, what's your favorite book?
Nobody's Fool by Christopher Chambers and Daniel Simons, two psychologists.
What is it about?
It's basically about Ponzi schemes and why they work so well, why Fire Festival made $1 million even though it didn't exist, why all of those things happen in our society, and how to see it from a psychological standpoint and not get sucked into it.
That's awesome. Very cool. Favorite movie? The Matrix.
That would be ideal. Favorite movie would probably have to be Frozen.
Frozen. Was not expecting that answer.
It's a wild answer because it played on deployment over and over again. And in times of hardship, we sang that anyway.
That's awesome. Favorite food?
Favorite food, lasagna.
Favorite car?
Favorite car, Audi.
Which one?
Audi.
You like Audis?
Yeah.
R8? I see you in the R8.
Yeah.
Favorite song?
Favorite song is Dream Bigger by Axwell.
Favorite place to visit?
Favorite place to visit? Home.
Mm.
I create an environment that I like.
That's beautiful. Favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby? Playing League of Legends.
Nice.
Yeah, I was semi-pro at one point.
That's amazing. Favorite sports team?
Sports team Spurs.
Okay. You're a Wemby guy.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite drink?
Favorite drink would have to be orange juice or
Might
organic
go to
orange juice.
Yes, for sure. Keep that shit clean.
Yeah. No Tropicana.
Nope. Rich, if you could provide a tip or a nugget to a struggling entrepreneur, someone who's lost their way and needs help realigning, what would you say?
I would say, when is the last time you spent 24 hours with yourself? That means no phone. That means no wife, no husband, no kids, no outside interaction. You know, why solitary confinement? There's documentaries that you can watch on it. There's, talks that you can watch on it. Why solitary confinement is so powerful. Why people actually go crazy in solitary confinement, because they're face to face a person that they don't know exists within themselves. You start to discover more about yourself when you spend 24 genuine hours with yourself, where, and the more frequent that you're able to do that, you start getting into things called shadow work. And once you discover who you really are and you start to find your passion, if you're already not in it, then your whole life changes. Trust me.
Wow. That's deep.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Spent 24 hours with yourself and discover who you really are.
Yeah, you're going to cry. You're going to process. You're going to be happy. You're going to maybe like things. You're going to think about things that you've been doing, because we can go through a process of our lives where we think we like what we're doing,
right,
until you spend a genuine 24 hours with yourself. And most people can't or haven't done this as an adult. I often ask people, when's the last time? And I mean, no phone interaction, like buy whatever food you need, spend your time in a cabin, in an Airbnb, wherever you need to, and literally just isolate yourself. When you're forced to spend time with your thoughts, your subconscious thoughts start to become more conscious. They come to the forefront, and
they rise.
You subconsciously don't even know some of the thoughts that you're thinking because they're subconscious.
Right.
But when you get into the conscious realm of thinking about them now, you start getting emotional, you start getting feelings, you start getting a lot of things from places you never even thought you can get them from. So, that'll be the first thing that I have somebody do.
Phenomenal. Rich, I really want to thank you for coming, for being a guest on the podcast, for coming all the way up here, and for sharing your amazing experience and your amazing knowledge to my audience. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the invite. It's an amazing podcast. Make sure you guys tap in, and anything that Leo has going on. This is a stellar man, or is, amazing individual, on a personal level, but also on a business level.
Right back at you, bro. Seriously. You are someone that I admire, someone that should be commemorated, and I'm proud of you for doing the work that you do and putting your community first.
Absolutely.
Guys, you know what to do. Hit that like button, follow, like, subscribe. We'll see you guys later. Peace.